All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to I'll name this segment later, GTG Spit That Grease, so on and so forth, title forever in the works. So if the title hasn't actually given me away yet, we're going to be talking about a little bit about the up-and-coming Street Fighter movie and then the cameos by three pillars of the FGC, not only in the past, but currently and whatnot, which just goes to show that if you put in the work and you do it well, that you can still endure and you can still prosper while also helping to elevate everybody else around you. And doing so, going to be talking about Maximilian Dude, IFC Yipes, and Justin Wong. And of course, a little bit about DSP being a salty little bitch in itself, in himself, I should say, which is this situation right here. Don't worry about it. We're going to go over the actual video. I'm just going to use this as B-roll. So, if you guys don't know, it's a Street Fighter movie coming out. Cody Rhodes is in it. Jason Momoa, 50 Cent. There's a bunch of guys in it. And what no one really knew, was Maximilian Dude, IFC Yipes, and Justin Wong were in there as cameos. Big ups to Loco Slam, who put this up on Twitter. I couldn't actually find his tweet. I know I favored it, but I couldn't find it. But same type of concept and whatnot. So big ups to Loco on that. But these three are making cameos in it. It's a pretty big deal. It's kind of means a lot when you think about it as it pertains to the FGC. It's not about just all three of them as individuals, right? But this is a good thing for the FGC as a whole. And whether the movie is serious or more comedic or whatever the fuck, that doesn't really matter. And we're going to talk about why DSP is a salty bitch about it, because he's not going to reap the benefits of anything because he never meant to. DSP was never part of the FGC to benefit the FGC. He was always there for himself. He literally wanted to use those people. I'm going to be very egregious about this, but it's true. DSP was going to only wanted to take advantage and basically molest them for clout and for his own social standings. Nothing else. He never looked at those people as friends, as his peers, none of that. They were only there to be used and discarded. And that was it. And when he ended up getting trumped first, he's been mad and bitter about it ever since. He's been mad and bitter about their success and everything else that came with it. And interestingly enough, and I want you guys to really think about this, I want you to really take this in. DSP will tell you that he was the first one in the FGC who really pioneered coming to YouTube and even streaming and really building up and really showing that FGC guys could do this, and for promo and all that other bullshit. That's a lie. The reality is DSP was trying to exploit them and their footage and their content for his own benefit. He tried to say that he was trying to promote their tournaments, but really he was there to poach their match footage. End story. The reality is that situation goes to max. And then you saw Justin come in later, a top tournament player, winner, who decides to make content. You saw that with IFC Yipes. You saw that shit with Smug. You saw that shit with Punk. You saw that with a lot of guys. There's a lot of people, young and old, of various skill levels in the FGC, who look to Max and be like, he's the one who laid out the blueprint for us to start doing content. He was the one who laid out the blueprint for us to stream. Because if you're already grinding and whatnot, going through ranked matches or doing casuals with friends or whatever the case may be, or just trying to level up for tournaments and labbing, you think of Max. Max was the one who made that, who set basically the groundwork for them to do it. If you're already doing these things, why not stream it? If you're already doing these things and maybe you discover something, why not make a video explaining it and putting it out there for people to see? Now, DSP has always told you that the FGC is wrong for that. Hoard everything. Don't give anything to anybody. Go to tournaments, showcase. He basically wants people to be as selfish and as basically well, selfish is the word, but I also want to say he wants people to be as selfish as he is, because he thinks a lot of people are as insecure as he is. You know what I'm saying? So you need to be a little rat. You need to hide shit and this, that, and the third. And he will go ahead and say, oh, well, the FGC back in the day used to do that, so that's just the way it was. That's not the case. You know what I'm saying? YouTube wasn't crazy prominent yet and whatnot. And the reason why Philly had its tech, the reason why San Antonio had its tech, the reason why Brooklyn had its tech over Staten Island, and so on and so forth, right? The reason why that is because there was no way to share the footage. There was no way for any of that stuff to go around. You know how much lost footage from like Chinatown Fair, right? Do you know how many fucking amazing fucking matches that happen over there? Crazy money matches, grudge matches, all that bullshit. All that shit's lost media because none of it was recorded. Or if it was, it's on VHS and the VHS got destroyed, compromised, lost, whatever the fuck. You know how much of just NYC FGC footage is gone? All those Friday and Saturday nights that they were out there wilding the fuck out and shit, having a good time. You know how much of that shit's gone? A lot of it. A lot of that history is gone. And it's because of that DSP thinks he can use that as his jump off point to lay down his bullshit and not have to worry about any reprisals because a lot of stuff's already missing. Now, the reality is, in the current day and age, why hide it? Why hide it when you can stream it? When you can put it on, when you can make content out of it, when you can build something for yourself. The FGC, ladies and gentlemen, and let me be very clear about this. The FGC is bigger than just going to tournaments and winning, right? Like, how do you build up a viewer base, a fan base, a supportive base, whatever you want to call it? Well, all three of those things are three different things, honestly. But how do you build all that up? People need to kind of get to know you. You might not be comfortable with them reaching out and touching you, so to speak, like physically, but you do want them to get to know you. Content, YouTube, making videos and or streaming on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, wherever your bag is. If you're smart, you're doing it on all of them. That's how you do it. That's how you get your name out there. That's how a lot of these up and coming guys made their name. They didn't do it on the tournament scene like DSP did back in the fucking Stone Age. They did it by making content. They did it by streaming. They did it by basically collabing with other guys who were on the come up, and which is why all of them guys are cool with each other. That's why all people do those online tournaments all the time and stuff. And you have all these young up and comers in there and shit. You don't find a lot of old heads in there. You find a lot of old heads watching it. You know what I'm saying? And it's funny me calling Punk an old head, but theoretically he is an old head if you think about it. But that's how Punk and Brian and SJM and all those guys, that's how these guys discover them. From streams and YouTube videos and shit. That's what this is. And you can contribute that to Max. A lot of it, if not almost all of it. Max made it cool to do fighting game coverage and put it out there. And he encouraged other people to do it too. He didn't try to gatekeep it. He didn't try to poach off people. He actively encouraged the FGC to do this because that's how you guys are going to survive. Because some of you guys may never break into top 8. Some of you may never break into top 4. And some of you may never win an Evo. But make content then. Stream it. You're already doing it. So you might as well. And then you can help the next person along. You can pave it forward to the next person. And that's the point. And so when you saw Justin come in, a top guy, when he started making content, it's like, oh shit. When Yipes came in, right? And you saw what Yipes did, it's like, oh fuck. And then you got someone he made his name off Marvel. But Yipes is so much more than just Marvel. But he made his name off Marvel and gave people someone to rally behind. Now, he's not the only one. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people, when you think of Marvel, you think of Maximilian, right? Because he's been fighting for it for so long. But people forget that Yipes has been fighting for it as long, if not longer. You know what I'm saying? But do you see the two of them conflicting on who did first and did what? Nah. People aren't petty like that. At the end of the day, a high tide raises all sails for everybody. So the more people that you have who's gonna, you know what I'm saying, who's gonna sit there and grab a rower or whatever the case may be, the better. So there's that. So here, let's actually get into this. So let's actually talk about how pivotal I think all three of these guys are and why. So I'm gonna break these guys up into subsections, and I think there's a reason for it. Hopefully some of you guys pick up what I'm putting down. Okay. Max represents the media aspect of the FGC. Someone who streams, someone who does content talking about the FGC, talking about different games in the FGC. He's literally, you could say, honestly, he's the pulse of the community in a lot of ways, right? He's not the face of it on some fag shit like that. He doesn't want to be the head of it, but he's someone who talks about it quite a bit, and he helps keep people informed. And if anything else, it's fair to say that the majority of his audience, the majority of his audience is really newcomers or people who aren't really in the FGC like that, more than people who are established. If you really were to break up his audience, it's really newcomers and casuals more than your actual hardcore FGC guys. But his word carries, and it still carries. So that's what Max represents, as well as the fact that he has a background in playing all these games. But as you guys know, one of his favorite fighting games of all time is Third Strike. He's actually pretty good at it. So that's a thing in itself. So that's what Max represents. He represents the media aspect of it. Talking about the games, talking about the community, drumming up interest, giving you different examples of history of these particular games and learning about it. He helps get you invested, but he keeps you informed. So people like DSP doesn't take advantage of you with bullshit that he himself, meaning DSP, barely knows himself. That's what Max does. That's what he represents. That's what he brings to the table. That's what he presents. As well as he's a decent player in himself. If not, he's a good player. So that helps too. But you know what I'm saying? He's more than just that. Okay. IFC Yipes represents the... No, actually, we're going to use... Yipes goes last. Yipes goes last. I respect all three of these cats, but I'm going to put Yipes last. Justin, number 2. Justin represents the pinnacle of the FGC. He's the most decorated fighting game player. Not even player. He's the most decorated champion that the FGC has ever produced over multiple games, right? But not just that, over multiple periods, from the early years, grassroots, up until the current day. This is Justin's accolades, or at least some of them. You're talking about from grassroots to when teams were a thing, to when teams were officially getting picked up, into the esports era, and then even beyond that. You know what I'm saying? That's what he brings to the table. That's what he represents. On top of that, unlike DSP, Justin has opened up opportunities not just for himself but for others. When you think about Evil Geniuses, for example, think about everybody he brought in there. He damn near brought in that entire roster for the most part, as it pertains to his fighting game division and whatnot. And he helped Evil Genius be incredibly dominant in its FGC division, which ended up actually helping Evil Geniuses in other divisions of esports. You know what I'm saying? As a byproduct, because there's not too many people in gaming who have never heard about Justin Wong, even if you don't care about the FGC or fighting games in general. So that's what he brought to the table. Not only did he get himself into a position where he could go to tournaments, he made himself some money. He made connections and he established relationships. He brought people with him. Whether they were friends with him directly or just talented people and whatnot. He had no real bias there. Yeah, he brought his friends in, obviously, but he brought in just really talented players as well, because Justin has an eye for talent. So he does that. Now, if most of you guys know, Justin's in the gaming industry and he has a lot of connections. He's gotten people jobs, which is something that the FGC has always done. Capcom, at one time or another, has had a lot of influential people from the FGC or even top players come in and out through their doors. They were given jobs. A lot of these guys who help develop games, who are some of the people that they give jobs? People that they know from the FGC that that are their friends and shit. It's a revolt. Like, the FGC isn't just the blunt, almost shallow fucking community DSP tries to make it sound like. It's far larger than that, and Justin is a big part of that. You know what I'm saying? He put money in his friends' hands. He got them onto teams to help them with travel and shit. He got them jobs even after that. Justin's done quite a bit, and he's put himself into, and he's also an ambassador. He also does commentary. He does a lot of commentary with Yipes. Max does commentary too, obviously. So you have all that. So that's what Justin brings. Max is the media. Justin brings in that grassroots has endured throughout the different iterations of the FGC. He's as prestigious, as respected, as revered, as loved even, for what he's done in the tournament scene and what he's done outside of it. That's what Justin brings at the top of the heap, the cream of the crop, when it comes to a player who transitioned into doing other stuff. And then, last but certainly not least, Mr. Curly Mustache himself, Mr. Pringles, Pop Your Top, Mr. IF fucking C Yipes himself. Now, Yipes represents the, I like to think Yipes represents like the street aspect of it. You know what I'm saying? Someone who came up playing Marvel 2, gritty, you know what I'm saying? Money matching, this, that, and the third. Dominion ends up really putting him on to this because Yipes shows a lot of talent and a lot of potential. Ends up getting Yipes to get onto the tournament scene for Marvel 2. Yipes blows up all fucking crazy and shit, wins an Evo and whatnot. Theoretically, he should have 2 Evo wins under his belt for Marvel 2, but he has the 1. So that puts him as one of the kings or one of the emperors of Marvel. So that in itself is worth a lot. And people forget. People think, oh, well, Yipes was just good at Marvel 2. He wasn't. He had a fantastic run throughout the Street Fighter 4 era. And then Marvel 3, and then Ultimate Marvel 3. So he's played even more games than that. But those are the 4 main games that I will hyper focus on. So Yipes represents that. The guy that, one of the dudes that was on the block who just kind of picked the shit up and ran with it. But then not just that. Yipes is very reference heavy. UFC, wrestling, street culture in itself, like N1 mixtape and whatnot, the NBA, sports in general. You know what I'm saying? He's really a lot of battle rap stuff. Like, Yipes is a very, very colorful individual, but he's also incredibly insightful. And if you ever get a chance to speak to Yipes, spoke to him once many years ago at a tournament just to pass. He was a cool dude. He was a cool dude. One of my older siblings who I guess had met him at a tournament or something or whatever, they dapped it up and whatever. He's like, yo, it's my little bro. Dude was like, hey, how you doing, little man? You know what I'm saying? He was, oh man, he was cool as fuck. He was cool. Justin was cool too the first time that I met him as well at a tournament. He was a nice guy too, but Yipes was super fucking cool and shit like that. And then, I think I had like I was rocking something and one. And he just immediately started throwing names at me and shit. And guys that I knew, like guys that I had watched in some of the and one mixtapes and shit. Just cool ass guy. Just fucking cool ass fucking dude, man. Holy shit. It was only like 10 or 15 minutes or whatever. And mainly he was talking to my older brother more than me. But he was cool as fuck. Holy shit, he was cool as hell, man. Super cool. Anyway, so was Chris Matrix. Yipes' friend Chris Matrix. He was cool as fuck too. He was a real cool guy also. Anyway. But Yipes kind of represents that. But even more than that, Yipes ends up transitioning into being an Evo winner, certainly a top player in most of the games that he played. He's an innovator. He's discovered all kinds of crazy shit, and people built off of it, which is what he wanted. Then he had his tournament series, Curly Mustache. He's one of a very pivotal individual in keeping Marvel 2 alive, keeping Marvel in general alive, and whatnot. Then he transitions into commentary. Sorry about that. And he blows the shit the fuck up. He's someone who has the technical aspect of it, but he gives it to you in a very colorful sort of way. So he can break it down to you in a technical sort of way. Let's use a wrestling reference here. He can give you the good old JR thing, right? But he's got a lot of flavor. He's got a lot of seasoning, right? So he can give you that Jim Cornette. He can give you that Jerry the King Lawler. He can really throw some flavor onto that shit, and he makes it good. He makes it good. He makes it great. And more importantly, he can do it on his own. But he makes the people around him better. And in a similar way of a Ski Sonic, to be honest. Him and Ski Sonic are fantastic at being able to develop those people around them, not even realizing it. The dude that's right next to them don't even realize that they're being schooled to the game, but they are progressively getting better. And they don't notice it until people start really mentioning it to them. That's where Yipes' talent really lies. He's someone who's a fantastic tournament player who was able to transition that over the commentary. And honestly, one can make the argument, I'll do it, that Yipes is one of the reasons why there's dudes who can make a living off of doing commentary. Yipes does commentary in a lot of different places. He's flown out to do a lot of different things. He's an ambassador in a lot of different things. He commentates on a lot of different games. He never allowed himself to be boxed in. It's very more Bruce Lee's be like water. You could say that for all three of these individuals, to be honest with you. They never let themselves be boxed in. They were always willing to try. Yipes initially did commentary for fun. You know what I'm saying? As Spooky used to have him come on just to kind of, Yipes is funny, and he's always cracking jokes, and he always lightens up the mood and shit like that. So he was a nice little placeholder, if you will, until the matches come up. But then people were like, nah, let Yipes stay on that shit. Let Mike stay on the mic. And then shit got silly. And because Yipes understands the technical aspect of it, he can give you all of the more comedic, more bombastic, if you will, references and whatnot, exaggerations, if you will. They're not exaggerations, they're part of his personality, but you know what I mean? But he can give you a lot more flavor and not just give you the technical part. He can do both. And he flows well depending on the environment. If they need him to be a little bit more professional, cool. But he can still get his jokes out there where, you know what I'm saying, it's all good, no worries. If this turns into, yo, Yipes, just be Yipes, and it turns into like the old school FGC poverty streams and shit, where it's like, yo, go all out, you know what I'm saying, get that shit on wax, and you know what I'm saying, and make that shit a hit. Make daddy some money. Yipes can do that. You know what I'm saying? That's what these three represent to the FGC. That's why everybody's so happy about it. No one's sitting there being like, what the fuck them guys up there? Fuck them dudes did for us and shit. People are happy about that. People are happy about that. You got three people who represent three different aspects, three different eras, theoretically, of the FGC in some way, shape, or form that are being recognized. And by them being recognized, the FGC gets recognized, right? So thank you for coming to my extended TED Talk. Now, this is all of them speaking on how happy they are that they're all going to be in a movie and shit. They're going to be in a movie with each other. It's just a very happy sort of situation, and you're seeing how people are receptive to that. And what, and truth be told, I don't know if you can find three better people that are there to represent the FGC. And then here they go right here. So, like I said, Justin over here is to what is my left. Then Yipes is in the middle, and then Maximilian's to the right. So big ups. So if you're part of the FGC, and if you really want to see the FGC thrive, this is what you want. And you're very happy with the situation. Now, whether the movie does incredibly well, or if it flops, or who gives a fuck, you're happy about that. You're happy that not just because someone at Capcom obviously cared enough to be like, yo, we need three people that people can recognize, who are not only relevant in the past, but relevant currently, and who will be relevant in the future by those who they develop. That should be in this movie, even if it's only for a 10, 15-second cameo, if even that long. I think they chose well. And I think that's the reason why the FGC is receptive to it. Someone was paying attention over at Capcom, and whoever else, because someone pulled strings to make this happen. You know what I'm saying? And that right there in itself is a good thing. And what this really represents, I really want to try to embellish this upon you, is that win, lose, or draw, you can, if you're really passionate about something and you really want to see it grow, and you want to see the people in it grow, and so on and so forth, right? One way or another, you'll be recognized. Now, not everybody will be recognized. Not everybody will even be remembered. But know and take solace and take pride in the idea that what you do will push it forward for other people. You know what I mean? And I think that's important. And I think you've seen all three of these guys do that in their own way. Don't be wrong, they all made their money along the way and whatnot. They all had their situations. Some of them made mistakes, some of them didn't, so on and so forth. But they learned from those mistakes, and they kept growing. And in turn, that's why the FGC goes back and looks to them. That right there is important. And I think it's something that is not stated enough. Now that we've gone over all the positives, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Now we go into the dirty reality of this bullshit with this piece of fucking expired spam piece of shit. And how he don't want to talk nothing about the situation because, people are going to misinterpret what he's going to say, and he doesn't want it to come out bad, so he's just going to keep his mouth shut. Most of you would say, okay, well, that's smart. He's going to say something stupid and whatnot, and he knows that it's going to get blown out of proportion because of how envious and jealous that he is and whatnot, so it's better to keep his mouth shut. But here's the problem. I want you to really think about this. And then we're going to get into this clip. Why couldn't he just say, you know what, I'm happy for them? Why couldn't he just show a little bit of humility and be like, you know what, I'm happy for them and whatnot. And I'm happy that the FGC is being recognized, and just leave it at that. That's all he has to say. But why can't he say that? Why can't he dig deep enough into himself to say, why not? Why not just say, hey, you know, good on them. Big ups. I'm glad for them. Instead, he's going to sit over there and wallop in his own filth and failure and his fragile little fucking ego that don't mean shit to nobody. And he's just going to sit there and be mad. And why? Because DSP's a loser. Because he's always been a loser. He always will be a loser. He tried to take advantage of at least 2 of the 3 guys that you saw up there. Couldn't do it. Mad about it. Damn near says that they gatekeeped him from doing so and whatnot. Because they wouldn't let him eat at the table. When truth be told, he ain't big enough to be at the table anyway. Just because you were around 20 years ago don't mean you get to eat here. Like, take it all in. But here, let's hear DSP side of it. You know what I'm saying? Because some of you are probably being like, you know, GTG, man, you're just a hater. You know what I'm saying? I understand you going for hater of the year and everything, which I am, by the way. I'm going for hater of the year. But you're just a hater. You're not actually giving DSP the benefit of the doubt. You're not actually hearing him out. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. I got you. I roger that. Let's get to it.
People keep talking about this. I could not give 2 shits. So thanks for $5. I don't give a shit about cameos in a movie. Don't care. Like, legit. All me commenting on it is just going to stir up drama no matter what I say. So I don't give a shit. Thanks for $5.
But I mean, what do you really have to say though? If you don't give a shit, then theoretically you don't have an opinion. Or you do have an opinion and you just mad that no one's going to care. You're mad because you don't really have anything good to say. You're mad because, oh, well, how come they get propped up and the other guys didn't? Not everybody gets to be on top. Not everybody gets to run around and be Jordan. That's the reality. You got your all-stars, you got your superstars, and then you got then you got your goats. And not everybody gets to be a goat. Not everybody got that goat milk. Not everybody got that dog in them. Not everybody gets to take the easy way out. The league doesn't get to change the rules and the parameters to make it easy for you guys to do shit. That's not how that works. That's not how that works at all. That's why LeBron keeps losing these GOAT conversations, which I don't even know why he even up there anyway. Compare LeBron to Kobe. Who's better? I don't even know why we even talk about LeBron being compared to Jordan. Let's go ahead and fucking compare him to Kobe and see how he match up. Semantics. It's a whole nother thing for another day. But it's a whole nother thing for another day. But the fact that he couldn't even step out of his own body for a minute to be like, you know what, I'm happy for them. Big ups to the FGC. That's all I have to say. Can't even do that. Not even man enough, not that he's much of a man anyway, so I use that term loosely, but not even man enough to even say that. Instead, be a coward, not say anything, and just be mad and disgruntled. Because no one cares really anyway. Except for assholes like me that are going to go ahead and give you what he really means, which is just going to make him even more pissed off. And then Duty will probably go ahead and do some clickbait bullshit on his stuff, on his end of it, and whatever. Oh, that's funny. Just imagine being fucking reduced down to being fucking a clickbait title for Duty.
That's what some people sadly don't understand, is that you want a reaction from me on something that you think is arbitrary, but if I say something, immediately someone will turn it into something dramatic and negative. So I'm just not going to comment at all. I refuse.
I'm going to refuse. Oh, so sad. Well, there you go. Like I said, nice, short, and sweet on DSP's part, but he didn't have shit to offer anyway, to be honest with you. The reality is, ladies and gentlemen, is that another win for the FGC, and DSP, yet again, being pushed out a long time ago, thank God. And he's mad about it, because DSP really thinks he should be the face of something. He really thinks he's a pillar of some shit. He really thinks he has some influence. He really thinks that he should be celebrated and commended on what he did. But if you really look at his FGC past, if you really look at all the nonsense that he did and whatnot, Density Scrolls has some of it over there and whatnot, big ups to all, you see what he really did. He brought way more harm than good. The majority of it was to himself. And even those few people who pitied his ass and were willing to give him a couple ass pats and whatever, even they went to regret that shit later. Instead of giving him mercy, treating him like a Make-A-Wish kid, they should have went ahead and beat his ass down, literally and figuratively, and really showed him what's what. They should have humiliated his ass. Mike Watson and Jaha should have finished the job. But I respect the fact that they didn't, because they would have just turned him into an eternal victim, which is what he is anyway. But see, if he had a couple of scars that he could show and whatnot, that right there would only benefit him further. And that's why the FGC don't really bring him up. Because why? He's going to victimize himself whether they did something to him or they don't. Whether they acknowledge him or they don't. Jesus Christ, Justin Wong had a Make-A-Wish Foundation situation with him not too long ago. Beat his ass, what, 10-0 or 10-1? I'm going to try to say 10-1, but pretty sure Justin just cleaned his ass up. And what came out of that? Nothing. All that nonsense DSP talked about CBS2 and all of his experiences and all his know-how and all his understanding didn't mean shit compared to Justin. And why not? And why not? Why didn't it mean anything? Why didn't it actually prove nothing? Why didn't it carry any weight? Didn't carry any weight because DSP didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. He was an observer. He was an outsider even back then. If he could get over himself, if he could have gotten over himself, let's be honest, would DSP had been up there if he had played his card straight and did everything right? Who knows? Maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't have. In a what if scenario, in an alternative universe, light side Phil might have. I don't know if that Twitter account's still around, but big up the light side Phil. Big up the LSB too, by the way, and whatnot. Hope those guys are doing it right. But like maybe in an alternative universe, light side Phil, there'd be a fourth chair up there, and maybe Yipes or maybe DSP would be up there, or maybe DSP would be in the back and he has his arms around all three of them and shit. Maybe that could have been a thing, but it's not. And the reason why is because DSP wasn't nothing. He was just another name. He was just another crab in the bucket. He was just another apple in the barrel. It just happened that he sunk a little bit quicker than everybody else thought. He was a little bit more rotten than the rest of them. And to save itself, they had to oust him. In the story. Or he fucking fled. Whatever way that you're comfortable with. The FGC may have not have been able to get to where it's at if DSP was around, but truth be told, it might have been just fine. There's a lot of toxic pieces of shit in the FGC, and the FGC is doing just fine. But DSP in himself is a special type of piece of shit, because he'll sabotage everybody around him if he can't have his way. That in itself is dangerous in itself. So DSP keeping his mouth shut right now, at the very least, about this movie, good. He'll eventually talk about it. Eventually, and let me actually lay it out to you in closing. You know what I'm saying? Because I've taken up enough of y'all time already. Mister, I talk too much. Shake my hand. But in closing, DSP wants to see if this movie, how well this movie does. He wants to see if it succeeds or if it flops. And then he'll come out swinging. Wait till they're down. Let's say the movie flops, right? Wait till they're down. Wait until they're on their knees. Wait until they're vulnerable. And then he'll come out swinging. Oh, instead of spending all this money on that fucking movie, why don't they just make a better game? Or why don't they make more games? See, Capcom doesn't have its priorities right, because they go ahead and listen to Max and they listen to Justin, and they're really only out for themselves. They're only out there to make money. They don't give a fuck about the community. They don't give a fuck about the games. They got themselves a nice little paycheck off all that, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? The FGC isn't even the FGC anymore. It's not what it really was. It was never about money back in those days. Coming from the same piece of shit who was going to tournaments, stealing people's footage, putting it on his channel, monetized before those cats could. And then try to pass it off later when confronted, saying it was publicity. Holding up tournaments, legitimately holding up tournaments so he could record other people's matches instead of playing his own shit out. You guys, for those of you who know, you know. But he wants to talk about other people getting money off of it. So that's what he's doing. That's why he don't have nothing to say about it right now. He wants to wait for the movie to come out. He's praying to God that it's going to fail and whatnot. And then he'll talk about it. Or if it does incredibly well, he'll be like, oh, well, it's because they paid all that money for all those actors and actresses and shit. It was all the big names and everything. I don't understand why Justin and Max and Yipes get any credit. That's how he'll play it. That's how he'll play it. He'll do he'll handle it in the coward's way, because that's all a coward can do. And the reality is no one will care about it except for assholes like me. And then I'll make my video out of it, and then I'm on to the next piece of bullshit that this piece of spam decides to put out there. slop is slop at the end of the day, and that's all DSP fucking has come out of his mouth. And that's why Yipes, Justin, and Max never respond to any of his shit. That's why most guys don't respond to any of his shit. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. DSP was never out to enrich the FGC. He was only out to enrich himself. And anybody that he could take advantage of, he would have. Think about all the shit that DSP has talked over the years about Justin, for example. But when that situation happened where they were, it was a tournament a long ass time ago. I think it was at, it might have been at a B5 or at one of the Battle by the Bays, where they basically tried to short Justin on the money, on the prize money or whatever the case may be. And DSP is like, oh, I spoke up and this, that, and third. There was a lot of guys who spoke up. There was a lot of guys who spoke up. It wasn't just DSP. There was a lot of guys who spoke up. And the only reason why DSP spoke up is not because he really thought that Justin was getting fucked and he wanted to help him. It was because other people were doing it too and he wanted a piece of that clout. That's really what it was. So even when DSP does the right thing, he's doing it for the wrong reasons. Keep that in mind. He never gave a fuck about Justin. If anything, he thought he could squash him. And he couldn't. Whereas Justin got married, has himself a kid. I think he has 2 kids at this point. So, but he has at least 1 child. Has himself a kid or some children, or has himself some kids. You know what I'm saying? Has a real job, and then has the FGC theoretically as a second job. And is gonna always be remembered. DSP is gonna be forgotten. He already is a little bit. Because of assholes like me that just keep his name out there. You know what I'm saying? But even then, sooner than later, one way or another, when DSP croaks, let's say that. Let's just call it space bait. When DSP croaks, more than likely on stream, it is what it is. You may get a tweet, or you may get a reference on stream from Justin and Max and some of those guys saying, you know, I'm sorry that sorry for his passing. I send my best to his family, and that's it. In a couple of days, he'll be forgotten. There won't be any commemoration and shit. I doubt the FGC will ever let him get into the Hall of Fame. None of that. Because 20 years ago, while DSP was wishing on the FGC's failure, it was people like Yipes, like Max, like Justin, who were doing everything they can to make sure it thrived. DSP has no hand in any of that. He's just another fucking monkey, another individual of the peanut gallery on the sideline, screaming and yelling, hoping that someone would either give him some attention or someone would side with him. And they didn't. And that'll be the end of his story. In any case, thank you guys very much for listening in. I very much appreciate it. This has been, I'll name the segment later, GTG Spits That Grease. And, ladies and gentlemen, just when you're part of a community, you want the community to thrive. Not only while you're there, but past you. With the next group of people that are coming up. And you hope that they'll go ahead and pass that down the line. Any of you who have been around people like Agent Proper, for example, it's proof positive of that. Since he stepped onto the court, he's wanted to see the community do well and go forward, even at his own deficit. And there's a few people like Proper who was like that. That's what it really means to be part of a community. Not just enriching yourself, not making sure you get over, not running around thinking of people as faceless losers and all this other silly ass shit. Trying to fucking say that you're a pillar and you want to be the face of a community and shit when whatever you really brought to the table, so on and so forth. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. It's not a community of you. It's a community. In any case, that's my good deed for today. Take care of yourselves, people. Oh, that's my spiteful good deed for today. But take care of yourselves, people. Later, people.